Hi, everybody. How's it going today? Our second day out here. Well, I'm really excited about this fireside chat today. I've got David Martin here. He's developed $8 billion of projects as CEO of Terra. And he's a guy who's done wildly different projects across so many different areas. He's a really busy guy. Just to give you a sense, right now he's bringing food-branded luxury condos to Miami for the first time. That's John George and Major Food Group, Transform Coconut Grove, Workforce Housing in Overton, doing condo buyouts, tried to buy the biggest parcel in Miami last year, doing convention center project, Mr. C in West Palm, Deauville Resort in Miami Beach, the Well Lifestyle Project, a ballot measure that just got approved Tuesday. And that's like a third of his projects. This guy is insanely busy. And he's also a hometown Miami boy done good. He's a son of a Cuban immigrant, co-founded his firm with his father when he was 23. And, I think of Related in some ways as the 800-pound gorilla in Miami, but one day, that might be David Martin. Maybe it already is. And one of his competitors said recently, he's an intense guy. He said, I'm convinced there are 12 David Martins. He's everywhere. So I want to hear more about what he's got going on, what fuels his drive, the white whales that got away from him, what's next for him and for Miami. So welcome, David. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So want to start with some of the recent deals, and later we'll step back in time and want to ask you more about how you got started. But you just launched sales of a John George branded condo tower in the Design District. You're working with Major Food Group on a tower in Edgewater. What is, the food branded concept going to bring to the table? What is that all about?
Whenever we do projects, our first goal is to create environments that enhance people's lives. And we do that by bringing the best talent in design, engineering, branding, culinary, to try to deliver an experience, to really try to deliver a home, right, where people are going to be able to spend time with their families, share memories with their friends, and really it gives them a sense of pride. And so, when you think about it, any hotel, anything, every part of your day, you are eating or drinking something. Mm-hmm. And John George, Jeff Selaznick, and Mario Carbone, Ignacio Cipriani, these are just amazing, talented people that they study their consumer. They know their consumer is our target market. They know how they live. They know what they like to do, and they're global. And so for us, working with John George, he's probably the most sophisticated, accomplished, world-renowned chef in the world. And just it's so meaningful. I was walking Union Square with him through this farmer's market, and just the way people reacted to him, the farmers, how he really makes decisions that are very detailed and thoughtful. To have people like that as part of my think tank when I'm developing projects and making decisions in order to kind of innovate and do things to compete and to do something powerful for the neighborhoods we're in. It's a really special time, and it's something I learn a lot from.
And is it a restaurant, or how much does the sensibility infuse the whole project? And
so first, he's buying a place in the building. Second, he's going to be developing an ABC kitchen on the ground floor, which it's one of my favorite restaurants in New York. And then third, he's basically going to have moments throughout every amenity space in the building. We have around 4 different floors. And so he designed with Yabel Pulscherberg some amazing spaces and something really unique and different. Every project we do, we learn, whether we're doing wellness in Bay Harbor or whether we're doing 5 Park, which we just completed on Miami Beach. We learn about every project, and we try to make informed decisions in order to deliver the best possible product and in order to have our owners, happy and satisfied and really believe in what we're doing.
Food seems like such a no-brainer. Are you looking at other brands for food-related concepts?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the whole brand label concept, if you notice, our project is called Villa with Major Food Group. If you notice, our project is called Tropic with John George. At the end of the day, it's really not about the label for us. It's more about the collective collaboration of experts that we bring together to just make really informed, smart design decisions. And And if you could be design driven and be, thinking of your consumer when you're making the decisions and having the focus groups and being okay to have stakeholders or people say, don't know what we don't like this or don't like that, being able to have a healthy debate amongst just the entire market, I think it's really important. I've had a lot of advisors in my life, and remember one of them, Nasir Qasimali, was like, David, you're taking input from too many people. Let's just make the decision and move. And I'm like, but if we could satisfy at least a piece of everybody's input with that project, we're going to deliver a better product. So for us, we love the workshopping. Workshopping is kind of like a big word for us. We love ideating, and we love thinking of what we can do next to make our city and our neighborhoods better.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you were really one of the first guys to bring star architects to Miami when you did that Bjarke Enkel's project, Grove at Bangray in Coconut Grove, and that really transformed the area. But just the idea that, you're bringing together multidisciplinary experts, even outside real estate, in the food example, to just create a space, essentially.
That's right.
I want to ask, and incidentally, Bjarke had an interesting story about you. He said when you were first talking about a project, he met you in Miami, then he flew home to New York, and when he was in the cab, and this was your first meeting with him, you wanted an update on where he was at with the project, and it was 3 hours after the meeting. So that's an example of how hard charging I think it is.
Technology is impacting all of our lives. We're doing too much, right? And we need to have systems and accountability on our schedule. And we have an amazing organization at Terra. We have an amazing executive team, and we really focus on making decisions that are efficient and also an ability to energize others. We really truly believe positive energy and trying to make the work exciting and fun and making it a learning experience for all and kind of sharing all that data with the group. I think that's what makes amazing things happen. And so I think overall Bjarke is right. I do push, but we push within reason and to have a disciplined approach at making decisions, so we're not wasting time.
Yeah, and that's how you get so much done. One thing I want to talk about is, the approach to the public. Miami, covering a lot of cities with the Real Deal, has a better relationship between its developers and the public than most cities do. This is a pretty pro-real estate city if you look at New York by comparison, or San Francisco or whatever. But you just underwent your fourth ballot measure. You got approval on Tuesday for more condos on Jungle Island in exchange for parkland. Do you want to take us through that process and, how you dealt with the public? Did you personally get involved in going out there and convincing voters? Like, what did that kind of look like?
The secret, I think, to our society working better is if we could have business, government, and community aligned. And so, for us, these referendums, I've learned a lot. I started with a referendum for the Convention Center Hotel, which we got 64% of the vote. Then we did a referendum for Marina Park. I lost, and hopefully I could go back on the ballot in the future. The third one was a land swap we're doing with Miami Beach for a health center that we were building. And this one is just an amazing kind of greenification of Watson Island that, has been a hodgepodge for so many years. And it's so symbolic of our city, and it's so visible that we really need to do something special there. But overall, what happens is, engaging on these referendums, I'm in senior centers, I'm knocking on doors, I'm feeling what the community's saying. And for us, it's all about, how do we hack capitalism to solve society's issues? We cannot just subsidize and believe that that's going to be sustainable. Our city is one of the largest creators of tax revenues in the world, incremental tax revenues, and those monies are used for quality of life services, for public infrastructure projects or needs. And so that's where we got to be. If the business community is not talking to the community, to the neighbors, to the activists, whenever I go to a neighborhood, I want to identify who is anti-development and can I engage with them and learn from them, learn about the community, learn what's wrong, what's right. Typically there's a traffic problem. Typically there's not enough green space. Typically there's not enough education. There's always things that we can do in order to better a community. And at the end of the day, if we could get aligned and listen and talk and compromise, I think we could do so much better things. Today, we're so political. And most of the time, I think, even on the opposite spectrums, we may agree on 50, 60% of the things. Our job is to work on the things we agree on and get them done, and not let the things that we disagree on get in the way of progress for our future generations.
Yeah, and I think it's an opportune time for that. We were talking about this backstage, but a lot of developers will send their attorneys to the community board meeting or whatever, the civic engagement piece of it. But there's a real opportunity now. I think some of the leaders in real estate are basically getting older. The baby boomer class, the George Perez's and whatnot. And it's a really opportune time for the next generation of leadership, real estate leadership that has that civic engagement. Like, the time is now, for a lot of that stuff. So it'll be an interesting couple of years because, a lot of the older baby boomers are stepping away, and it's like the next class can come in there and really shape our cities, which I think is exciting.
We all need to learn what the past mistakes are and learn from them. And our community does have challenges. We, whether it's transit, having an amazing transit system, or having affordable housing for our workforce, or just dealing with stormwater management and mitigating and adapting so that we could thrive. And these are challenges that, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, there were other challenges here. Mm-hmm. But our society and our community made decisions over 50 years ago to kind of conserve 2/3 of our county to be an Everglades National Park. That's a big move, big decision. We have an urban development boundary line. We believe in urbanization. And so the challenge for us is just to learn how to communicate better. And sometimes the social media, it's intense. There's basically multiple universes or parallel universes going on at the same time, right? And so it's a whole new way of doing things. And I do think as an industry, we're all working together to try to solve things. And we really need to all get more involved, get more active. We have amazing elected officials like, for instance, Joe Magazine here from City of Miami Beach. We have others here, right, that really are doing and making an impact and care about the public service and making public service first. And that civic mindedness, we need that to bleed. A lot of times we sit in our homes and we complain about government. It's not government's fault. It's our fault. We all need to participate and get involved in order to help fix whatever issues we got in our communities.
Yeah, and I think that social media piece is so important. The old school real estate, old school trade groups, they still don't know how to do that, speak to the community on social media. So it's an opportunity. I want to talk about, we talked about projects that have worked. I want to talk about some projects that haven't worked. You might take another stab at. So condo buyouts, obviously a big area. There's looming deadlines for older condo buildings to have reserves in place. You had a $500 million deal you were trying to do at the Castle Beach Club. That deal fell through. Do you think there's going to be more condo buyouts ahead, and are you going to revisit that one now that there are these looming deadlines and maybe more pressure for owners to sell?
I think, one of these business plans I came up with once was, I was like, I wish I could go to every oceanfront building and say I'm going to hire a most amazing design team to kind of reimagine the building. And I wanted to get 50% of the uptick in that price, in that asset after post-renovation, right? I really believe that associations today are getting much more educated. I think there's a lot more alignment with the legal community. There's a lot more alignment with the board of directors understanding their responsibilities, and also challenges given that they're basically in a volunteer position. And so what I see happening is those buildings where the residents are getting aligned, where the holdouts are being weeded out, and really just trying to come up with a common vision. A common vision could be, let's invest $20 million here, and our $400 a foot property is now going to be worth $800 a foot. Those decisions are asset management decisions that a lot of our condo associations haven't been doing. They focus on the property management. They're not focused on the asset management, whether it's the events, whether it's the lifestyle of these buildings. And so I do think that certain buildings were badly built. Certain buildings will, in essence, be better with a new building. But I also think there's a huge opportunity for a lot of these existing buildings to reposition themselves. And I think that's something that we're all going to start seeing soon.
So seeing it as more of an investment rather than just a cost. And it really, how do you educate these HOAs and get these boards to be more professional? I mean, there's a lot of pressure now for them to be professional just because of the looming deadlines and all that stuff. But is there other ways you can think to make these?
I think the regulation is forcing it, but it's also providing a better crop of board members. At the end of the day, these associations are somewhat mini governments, right? They have rules and regs and compliance requirements. And so those regulations are really forcing that the people that do get on that board view that as a legal fiscal responsibility to the entire building rather than some self-interest.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit and go back in time, talk about your early days, because I think it's so interesting. So your dad was an engineer who came from Cuba. He became a real estate lawyer in the U.S. At the same time, you always had an entrepreneurial bug. So you started a coffee shop in college. You sold it for $500,000. College is around, 2000? And then did your dad come to you and say, let's start a development company, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I think we're all a product of kind of some ways, our parents, our grandparents, and our environment and our experiences here. And so, my father was an amazing man that, really allowed me to kind of go out and make mistakes, right? And so it was really an honor to be able to partner with him in 2001 and start the company together. And it's been an amazing ride. The challenge is, whether it's in college or post, the challenge is, how do you work with your family? I have my wife here, Christy Martin. I have 2 children. And, what I want to instill in my children is that hunger and that fight to do better and to do more and to really accomplish something in life. And so that's one of my biggest things. My daughter and my son are really my life and gave me a lot of purpose and drive for what I do. And when anybody messes with me, I'm always thinking they're messing with my daughter, right? And so, but at the end of the day, I think that starting a company, having a family-owned business is invaluable because there's a trust and built in, and there's a certain energy and spirit to the company that today is still there. So definitely really appreciated those early years, and I learned a lot. I learned early on in the first financial crisis, contracts are options. I learned that the character of people in these bad times, that's when you really get to know somebody, right? And so for us, it's really a question. I also kind of figured out my thesis, right? Early in my career, it was all about just maximization, find a site, build as much as you can, rather than thinking of less is more, thinking that the financial engineering and risk profile of less density and a higher margin is a good move, right? And so I think overall through time we've evolved and grown, and we just have an amazing organizational team that's doing great.
And that kind of insight in the Great Recession came when you did Grove at Grand Bay with the Bjarke Ankles project, where it was like, let's not jam all the apartments we can in there. Let's be thoughtful about it and do less units, but make them luxurious.
Listen, at the end of the day, one of the biggest decisions we made is scarcity matters, having barriers to entry in neighborhoods. Yes, historic preservation, all these things, they control supply. And when you have a controlled supply and you have development rights there, they're valuable. You could really do a lot with it. And the whole question becomes, what is the type of product that fits that neighborhood or that profile? And there are projects that are somewhat higher density, they're somewhat in some ways sometimes a commodity. And for us, we always wanted to differentiate and really have a users and really think of how somebody or a family or a young professional is going to live in this facility. And so developing Grove at Grand Bay, we were able to build over 440 units. We built 99, right? Park Grove, we were able to build around over 700 units, and we built around 220. So building around 30% of the allowable density, what does it do, right? It creates a huge amount of incremental tax revenue for those municipalities, but it reduces the impact, so there's less traffic, right? And so you get the revenues, or the community gets the revenues, but they get, less impact. And having high value, low impact developments like what we're going to do in Jungle Island is the move, right? We need all types of housing. We need low-income housing. We need extreme low-income housing. We need workforce. We need market. We need all types. And But that the high-end market is necessary to have a sustainable economy in our community. And so those types of projects, and so being able to work in all the different fields, right, in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, and experiencing all of you in the industry to kind of interface and understand, what's going on in each facet. So many times I hear, oh, those are buildings for billionaires, this, that, whatever, right? Five Park today is going to generate around $20 million annually per year. We TCO'd 2 weeks ago. That money's going directly to the school board, going directly to the county, going directly to the city of Miami Beach, and those funds are going to be used for quality of life services for everyone. And we do not do a good job explaining the economic impact and necessity of our business and how important it is. So anyways, I could go on and on. So.
Yeah, there's a trickle-down effect there. But, thank you. But part and parcel of doing, all these projects is you're partnering with a lot of other developers, Jeffrey Sofer, Michael Simpkins, Russell Galbit, the Moss family. The list is just endless. What's the number one thing you look for in a partner when you're inking that deal?
I would say, every deal has a different strategy, a different thesis, and early on, I can really work with anyone. I'll work with the curmudgeon and I'll work with the nicest guys, right? And I learned so much from all these titans and leaders that I've been working with. But the main thing is to kind of to have communication and have trust, and be open to that communication, be accessible, be a good partner, make smart decisions together, and think of your partner before you think of yourself. We're so self-interested, we're so selfish, and the more I think of others, the more we think that development is a privilege and not a right. That allows for a certain energy and movement that can be generated so that you could do great magic together, do well for your families, do well financially, and also do well for the community. So, I think overall, Five Park, for instance, building this amazing canopy park for the community, building this Danielle Barim pedestrian bridge that's going to be the gateway into Miami Beach. I mean, that's significant. The community allowed us to go from 7 stories to 48 stories. Guys, that's a lot of height, and so it just feels like there's, a responsibility we have. And Russell Galbit was on board with that vision and direction. And, and just so many times, whether in Park Grove, when George and I funded money to build Regatta Park, or the parks we've built in North Beach or parks we've built in Doral. Just every neighborhood we're trying to greenify. We need more green in our community. We want people to see, if we look at what Singapore is doing in other cities, we need to be known for our trees, right? We have great wealthy community. We have an amazing, we're improving our educational systems, but we need to greenify and make our neighborhoods walkable. Right now, I'm saying walkability and views are equal today in the decision-making process. I have projects that have no walkability and have projects that have walkability, and the engagement and volume and absorption and demand on the walkable communities and projects is much higher. And so how do we bring walkable districts? How do we have, more tree canopy? How do we, make it safe and secure for people to live, around their community so that their neighborhood becomes part of their home? That's the move that I think is that the neighborhoods that do invest in that, I think, are the neighborhoods that are going to thrive for the future. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, walkable and green neighborhoods, all that seems to be moving in the right direction in Miami. At the same time, nationally, we're seeing headwinds. We're seeing distressed real estate. We're seeing office projects that don't make sense. Is distress, assets, is that something on your radar? Yesterday on panels, people were talking about how, rental buildings might see a decline in value in the next year, 30%. Are you looking at picking up any properties that aren't doing as well? Is that something that you look at as part of your business model?
Yeah. We pride ourselves in creating things, right? And, or finding things to reposition. And so definitely if there's opportunities where we could buy things at below market prices, we're going to look at it and analyze it and chase it. But it's not the focus of the company. At the end of the day, distress is a temporary thing. And typically the distress is going to have a very complicated execution that typically is going to take a lot much longer than you anticipate when you go in, just given the legal process and what goes on. So we definitely look at all types of opportunities, but we also partner. I remember in 2010, 2011, we bought a note on a 250-acre golf course called the Fontainebleau Golf Course. They're that sponsor. We kept them in the deal, partnered with them, and we did extremely well, right? So distress is a moment. A lot of times, we all know, what happened in the crisis or where prices are right now. A lot of people, wish and hope they would have kept those assets, right? I remember, an amazing friend of mine, Joey and Jessica's dad, Tony Goldman, he goes, David, when you think of real estate, you got to think 20 years. And if you do that, you're really never going to make a mistake, especially in a market that's thriving and that really is going to be the city of the future, if it not already is, Miami.
Mm-hmm. So how do you, bringing up that 20-year vision, do you have a 20-year vision for yourself? Right now you're 46, 47? 47. So, 20 years, you'll be 67, which for a developer is not that old. You have Steve Ross coming down here at 85, and he's full-time, and he's starting to build projects. How do you kind of think about what you want to accomplish for the next 20 years?
I mean, we definitely are building up our multifamily pipeline, and so I definitely think over the next 20 years we're going to continue doing that and try to lower our leverage ratio as much as possible and have as much passive income there as possible. But I do think that we'll continue to look at special projects, whether they're on the beach, the bay, whether they're infill sites, whether they're industrial IOS or old Kmarts that we reposition into thriving retail. We want, and I see there's just a lot of future in our city, and I just hope that we could be part of it, united together to really take our city to another level. When we go to cities like Dubai and when we go to Singapore, we go to even European cities, there's just so much more that Miami's has to offer today, and if we invest in smart things, and if we elect people that care about our community and that are going to make the difficult decisions and not kick the can, I think this is going to be the brightest city in the world for a long time.
Yeah, and as part of that, one of the white whales that kind of got away last year, you were in contract for a $1.2 billion land acquisition from Genting in downtown Miami. That one fell apart. There was some dispute over contract terms. Any second bite of the apple that's possible there, or any insight on that deal?
I think it's could be one of the single most important properties in the country, in the most important city in the country, and so definitely think that that property has a future, and our goal is just to be able to align with the existing ownership at some point in the future.
Yeah, and is it still on the market for sale? Is it still any negotiations that are happening?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, they should reach back out. Well, I don't want to be too much of an armchair psychologist, and we don't even have armchairs here, but I want to get into kind of like it's been said you kind of have a carpe diem approach to life. And you've talked about this in stories, but, your mother had MS the whole time you were growing up. Your grandparents ran a funeral home. You were exposed to, a lot of mortality. Did that kind of inform, you wanting to go out there so strong?
I mean, of course, right? Like it's my brother runs my grandfather's funeral homes, and he has to deal with people in the worst times of their lives, and just experiencing so much death, right, on a daily basis, and just understanding that we really have a very short time to make an impact on our lives, for our families, and for future generations, and I think that's definitely driven me in a subconscious way. Just to think differently about life, and sometimes when I am in very difficult moments, and I'm like, why am I in this situation? How do I get out? I'm like, no, I got to pierce forward and persevere. So So definitely think my history. My mother's a rock. She's a very strong person and really positive, and she's lived with pain her whole life, and she's it's something that just amazing people like that have impacted me and made me who I am, and I just feel like I have a responsibility to all of them to do good work and do it in a responsible way and in a kind way, efficient and be successful, and that's our company's mission.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to end our talk on a more serious note, but I mean that sort of thing is the fuel. Everybody has something like that in their life. You take that fuel and you turn it into something positive. That, is really the fuel and the drive to make change and do business and build things and have a vision for the city and all that, right?
Yes.
Well, I want to thank David Martin for coming out here. I want to thank all you guys. And stay tuned for the next panel. Thank you.